Good morning. So as you can see, I am back at home today. I was at the beach yesterday. It was a very quick trip. We basically were just spending a little time with family and going to pick up two of our kids. One of them is still at the beach with a friend. Anyway, have you ever gone to on vacation and then you're home the next day and you're like, can you believe that like 24 hours ago I was, so wherever you were, like I can't believe that 24 hours ago, like right now, I was walking on a beach. So weird to be able to go from one place to a totally different place so quickly. Anyway, I am glad to be back home. I do love home. I mean, I love the beach, but there is something about being home and in your space with your stuff, and I'm not excited about going to work today. I will just go ahead and tell you that. I would like to be home without working. But I am very thankful to be able to work from home, so I will hop in my office in a couple minutes and do that. But today I wanted to talk about actually something that I read about while I was at the beach and that I listened to while I was at the beach, and that it was on my heart this morning. So I feel like it's something that I should share, and that's just the whole, and I cannot totally cover this topic in like a 5-minute video, but I want to talk about suffering and joy. And just to be really transparent right now, I wouldn't call it suffering, but the thing that I'm struggling through these days is just parenting. So my kids are 11, 12, and 14, very close to being 12, 13, and 15, and parenting is just really hard for me right now. And it's the place in my life that I'm finding the really easy to see the sin in my life, right? And it's not their fault. It's the point of it is me, and I'm seeing the worst of me, and I don't like it. And it's hard because they're getting older, and their wills are getting stronger, and their personalities are getting stronger, and there's a lot of hormones flying around, and there's a lot of there's just a lot of strong wills flying around, including my own. And when I say all of that, that was including my own, mainly or mostly my own. But it's just a place that's really hard for me right now, and it has been for a while. And it seems like it's not getting any easier. It seems like this is just going to be something that's going to be hard for the next couple years. I'm going to have 3 teenagers very soon, so I don't think it's going to be something that gets easier by any means. But there was something that I was just thinking, like, what would really help me this morning? And I was reading in Psalm 30, and it says, "Weeping may remain for a night, but rejoicing comes in the morning." Weeping may remain for a night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. That's Psalm 35. And I just have to remember sometimes that some of the things in our lives, we just need to have a perspective of this too shall pass. That's something that my parents would always say to me. It's just this too shall pass. Like, just it's not always going to be like this. It's just a season that you're going through, and kind of buck up and get through it. And I think about that, through potty training was really hard for me. And that was kind of thing, like, my kids will eventually learn to go to the bathroom on their own. And so I just need to calm down and kind of get through this, and it will pass. And so there's a lot of things in our lives that we just need to have the perspective of this too shall pass. So like, this is going to be a season that it's just hard for a little bit, and then your joy will come in the morning, and so I think that that's one perspective that we can have, is that it's just going to be a really short season, and that we're going to find some joy. But there is some some really difficult seasons of suffering, and sometimes our suffering is even lifelong. I think about people who have diseases and conditions that would make them be in pain or have to manage it for their entire lives, and that's a suffering that they endure. I think about, there's a couple guests I've had on my podcast. I had one lady who she's blind. She went blind as a teenager, and then there was another. I had Mary Carver on, and she actually wrote the book for a lady who had actually a terminal illness, and the book name was Choose Joy. And so she actually passed away from her condition, and yet she found so much joy. And I guess I think the thing that we think about it wrong sometimes is that the joy is going to come when we get past this, and that yeah, this is hard, but I'll be joyful when it is over. And I think the reason that we can have joy in the morning is because the places of suffering is where God grows us the most. And we see God and we commune with God more in our times of suffering than in our easy times. And so suffering has a very purpose. Like God is using a suffering as purpose, for purpose, and to grow us and to get him, to get us closer to him. I mean, people, if you talk to people who have grown the most in their spiritual life, it is often because of a time of suffering. People don't grow the most because of great times when your life is easy. They often grow the most spiritually when you go through times of suffering. And so I think you have joy after these times of mourning because you have met with God more in the times of suffering. Not because you survived the suffering or because it's over. But because you have communed with God more in the suffering. It's because of the suffering that it's that you have so much joy. I was reading when I was at the beach. I was reading this book, The Life of the Beloved, and there's a whole section about the kind of way that we live broken lives and go through these times of suffering. And I just want to read a couple sentences. It says, however, great and heavy burdens become light and easy when they are lived in the light of the blessing. What seemed intolerable becomes a challenge. What seemed a reason for depression becomes a source of purification. What seemed punishment becomes a gentle pruning. And what seemed rejection becomes a way to a deeper communion. So it's like, how are we looking at our suffering? Are we looking at these times of depression and punishment and we're being rejected and they're very hard? Or are we looking at it in light of a God who is making us more like him, and it is a time that God is purifying us, that he is pruning us, that we can commune with him more. So I think and that's where the joy comes from, is that when we can look at our suffering at times of that God is using it in our life and that we can commune with him more. I think that's how we can have joy in the morning, is that we can look back at that time that was suffering and see that God really did use it. And so we can have, I think, joy in the moment because we know if we get those, kind of like putting glasses on, if we can say, okay, I'm experiencing this and I know when it's over, I can look back and see that God was faithful if I lean on him during these times, and that we will see joy in the morning. And so that's kind of what is encouraging me today, especially in my parenting, is that this is a season and that I am seeing more about myself that's not good and that needs purified, and that I can bring that to God and say, hey, I am suffering and it's hard, but I can really rely on God in this moment. I can use this to purify myself, and he can sustain me and he will get me through it, and I will be a better, not only parent, but I will be a better person and more like Christ when this season is over. And that's how we can find joy. And I can say, yes, this is hard, but it's a joyful time because I know that God is using it to make me more like him. And so that's just short encouragement that we have. Weeping may remain for a night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. So whatever, and I hope that encourages you, that whatever you are going through, it's not, if we put it in the hands of God, and if we go to him during these times, and if we rely on him, that they can be times of joy, and that we can have joy in the midst of it because we know what God is going to do through it. All right. So that is just getting ready to jump into work. That's what I have for you this Wednesday. I hope you guys are having a great week. I see Candy. I hope the beach is still going well, holding it up down there. You get to enjoy another day at the beach. And Sherry, it's good to see you this morning again. Love to see you in the morning. So I hope you guys are having a great day. All right, that's going to be it for today. We will be back tomorrow. See you guys. Have a great day.